Dude, speaking of wrestling, I love you brought that up. Since I've started this job and we've gotten big enough, and we'll talk all about your career. We're going to get into everything on this interview, but since we've been lucky enough to get a lot of like bigger names, I have been on a crusade to find someone in the industry who will say something bad or tell me a story about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson that is unbecoming.
Yeah.
Because it feels like, he's just Mr. Perfect in every way. And then it feels like in recent years, this with the Behind the Mat documentary where they talk about the infamous match with him and Mankind, where he just beat the fuck hell out of his head with like an unagreed upon amount of chair shots. And like his kids were crying and he was just like, it seemed every wrestler agrees he went over the line. It feels like I finally found my story that The Rock has done something bad and nobody really seems to care. Wrestling fans kind of talk about it, but nobody talks about the time that The Rock almost killed Mick Foley.
Well, he worked stiff. That's, he just he worked stiff with Mick and, I knew I'll find a way to just completely take The Rock's side. I'm like, he's the Brahma Bull. What do you want? Kevin, come on, Kevin. I don't know what to tell you.
My argument in favor of him in that situation is not even to do with him. It's to do with Mick Foley. It's like, well, it's Mankind. I had to hit him 14 times. It's Mankind.
Yeah. Mick, Mankind and Cactus Jack and Dude Love, he would just really take a shit of abuse. That guy was, because if you look at him, he doesn't have the body. And then when you meet him, you're like, oh, you're the nicest guy in the world.
In the world.
When he started doing stand-up, was like 2010, right? Like 2010, 2011. And I used to do a lot of shows at Broadway Comedy Club or in the cafe next door. Like me, Nate Bargatze, Joe List, Mark Norman, and like occasionally Sam Morrill, Giannis Pappas. We would all do this. This guy, Aaron Haber, had a room that was all tourists barked in from Times Square. And the whole show were the people that barked them in. And usually like Nate and I or List and Nate or Giannis and I, you'd have two pros that would be on the show.
Right.
So it was a nightmare.
I was going to say, what a shit show with that.
I have bombed so hard in that room and it's crazy to watch. You were at Nate Bargatze's New York Comedy Festival show at Town Hall.
Oh yeah.
So was I. Unbelievable. Crazy to think that 2 avenues away, I used to watch him in a Vandy shirt and glasses just fuck bomb in front of a bunch of Finnish people. Being like, and it was like fun to watch Nate get a hold of that because like watching Nate learn how to tame that has made him why he's one of the best guys working right now.
Yeah.
Because he used to do this thing where he'd be like, I don't know. Do you not understand my accent? And he would just like, but he would be, Kevin, I'm telling you, dead silent in the room. And Nate,
which is almost impossible for me to believe because like I'm such a fan of him and where he's gotten to that it's like there's no way there's ever been a time where someone wasn't laughing at Nate Bargatze,
Dude, that's what's crazy to watch. I'm so happy for him and like all my friends that have done well, but you just think back to I can think back to like 07 to 2011 and a lot of the guys that are doing well, watching them bomb, we've all watched each other bomb.
Yeah.
That's why that's the comedy. Yeah, that's the comedy locker room. We've all seen each other's wieners cold in water. We've all been like, yeah, dude, I saw you after a hard loss.
Right,
and then you're just like, yeah, but look at me now. And you're like, no. That's why when everyone's like, great job, I'm like, shut up, you watch me bomb. And Broadway, I used to eat it all the time. So the reason I bring up Broadway is it was a blizzard and I used to wait tables at Dos Caminos. So I go home to Dos Caminos, I like change into my regular clothes. I get back on the train. It's a blizzard. I'm like, dude, this probably isn't going to this show isn't going to happen. Right. And I walk through the snow from the train, from the station to the comedy club. And I walk in and the manager's like, hey, sorry, you have to go later. Mick Foley's on stage. And I'm like, what? What? And
that sounds like a fever dream. Like, is this real life? Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I walked in and I was like, Mick Foley. And the manager doesn't know I'm a wrestling fan. And I'm just like, wait, can I watch? And she was like, yeah. I was like, oh, cool. And I just sat in the back of the room, where all of us bombed. And he did really well. And he was like, because, he's been cutting promos for 20 years.
Sure.
So he's comfortable on stage. But it was interesting to watch because he does storytelling and he's funny about it. But afterwards I met him and I was like, man, what a surreal thing to be said to. Like,
yeah, you're
sorry, dude.
Dude, love Cactus Jack.
Yeah.
Bang, bang.
Sorry, dude. Diamond Dallas Page is doing a drop-in set. Fuck out.
I think it's cool though to think that like you did comedy and grew up as a wrestling fan. He does wrestling and probably grew up as a comedy fan. And it's a weird world, both worlds, where I feel like it can kind of collide in the middle. Where
we're both carnival acts.
Right. Yeah. Like obviously there's this physical element to wrestling that you don't have, but the rest of it is kind of cutting promos and it is mic work. And it is like, look at me, the dancing monkey who needs validation. Right.
Yeah. It's a weird thing because growing up, I loved wrestling. And then like you get to high school and everyone's like, it's fake and gay. And you're like, yeah, I know. But like, I love it.
I still kind of like it. Yeah,
I love it, and I loved it. And this was like all the way through the Attitude Era. And then when I got to college and my drinking problem kicked in, I just was like, I didn't have, I wasn't watching. I was think I would watch Raw once in a while, but I wasn't watching SmackDown or anything. Right. And then when I moved to New York and finally moved into my apartment in Queens, my roommate, who I'd known forever, was like, "Oh, we got to get cable." And that was when DVRs were new. Mm-hmm. When he was like, DVR Raw and SmackDown, and I was like, "Oh, fuck, I'm back in."
Get back in.
So I got back in it, and that mixed with the fact that I met so many comics in comedy that were just like, "Dude, I fucking love wrestling. Like love it." Like Mike Lawrence, Dan St. Germain, Michael Che, Jermaine Fowler, Sal Vulcano. There's like guys that we go, Scott Chaplin. There's a bunch of people that are just super into it. They're like, "Oh man, this is awesome. We can all be real big fucking nerds together."
Yeah, man. It's like
Ron Funches. Ron. Sorry, Ron. I just don't want to forget this. Ron Funches had the funniest line. We went to a wrestling pay-per-view. We went to the first AEW event, and we were all backstage, and Jim Ross walked by. And we all got quiet, and Ron Funches just goes, "Man, we're fucking dorks." He goes, "We just got quiet." He goes, "We just got quiet like the president was walking by."
He was though. He's that dude. He's that guy.
How are you, sir?
If you grew up with it and you enjoy it, it's like in my mind, the Attitude Era is the most entertaining thing that has ever happened.
It was wild.
I'm talking television, I'm talking movies, comedy. If I have to pick one thing that entertained me the most in my entire life, the Attitude Era. It had it all. Drugs, sex, violence, all of it.
If anyone was like, what was the Attitude Era like? You're like live it was like if Instagram was a TV show.
Yeah, right.
It just had everything.
Yes.
Drama, shit talking, half-naked people.
Yeah.
It was fucking wild. But it's also one of those things, man, where I know as a wrestling fan, if you don't like it, no problem with me, man.
Fine. I don't know why.
But also, on the same note, you want to talk shit about it, I probably can find something that you like that is super fucking quirky.
And that's what I mean. Like, especially if any girls ever give you a hard time for it, it's like, I mean, do we have to go through the roster of shit that you watch? It's reality. It's our version of reality TV. It's our,
It's Real Housewives. It's our Real Housewives.
It's trashy stuff that is, the most entertaining thing that you can think of throughout your week.
Exactly.
And leave it alone. Leave me the fuck alone. But I think
that's the thing. That's the problem with a lot that we're having in, I think, entertainment is everyone. There's so many options that now instead of telling people what to like, people are telling people what to not like.
Not like, why you shouldn't like what you do like.
And you're like, oh, all right.
Who cares?
Dude, my dad used to have this phrase. One of the only things I learned from my dad was, he used to never say he hated shit or didn't like it. He would just simply say, "I don't care for it." Mm-hmm. It was a very subtle way of being like, "Fuck off. I'm not going to tell you how much I don't like it. It's not for me." It's such a quick, I don't care for it. Honestly, I think if that was, I would take that as a cutting but honest criticism. If someone was like, "Do you like Dan Soder's stand-up?" And it's like, I don't care for it. Like, you know what? It's fair. Good luck. Check out Mark Norman, Joe List. I don't think I'd be mad. Whereas someone is like, not funny, you're like, all right, now I think you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, now I got to defend this. Yeah.